My name is Dr. Blaine Hoshizaki. I'm the director of the Neurotrauma Impact Science Lab here at the University of Ottawa. And we really specialize in understanding how impact energy is transmitted from the outside of the head to the brain, and ultimately how that creates injury to the brain. Now that we understand the mechanism of injury, we can start looking at very sophisticated materials and techniques to manage that risk and really decrease the risk in sport. Initially, when helmets were developed, the concern was catastrophic injuries. However, it does a very poor job of managing risk for concussion and other types of neurological damage.
What we're looking at or focusing on is concussive injury, which has been linked to rotational acceleration of the brain. New technologies have started looking at ways of decoupling the helmet from the head. So if you would imagine if you get an impact to the helmet or to the mask, if the head is coupled and you hit the helmet in a different way, it's going to actually grab the head and bring the head along with it. Whereas if you have this decoupling in these specified regions, it can actually help the helmet just to move around the head and then obviously reduce the motion of the head itself.
When we undertook research in sport and head trauma primarily, what we found is that it's not just one way of getting injured or one mechanism. There's multiple mechanisms, and that in some cases you are transferring linear accelerations to the head and linear forces, and that creates certain types of injuries. Those injuries are things like skull fractures, intracranial bleeds. On the other hand, there are injuries like concussive injuries or non-specific injuries in terms of neuronal injuries that we'll see manifest themselves later in life. Those are more related to rotational acceleration.
If you watch a lot of boxing videos, you'll see that the shot that causes a KO is typically a punch around the jaw that causes that kind of rotation.
The brain is actually bathed in a cerebral spinal fluid, and that fluid allows the skull to rotate around the brain. So what we were interested in is how could we manage more effectively that shear forces that fluid is able to manage well. And that's really what led us to the technology, that fluid inside. Well, one of the things that the fluid pods are able to do is they really are a combination of fluid, very low viscosity fluid, so they slide really well. They also have a characteristic foam inside, impact foam, and this creates a real slip plane that allows shear energy to be not just released, but managed. The fluid technology works in concert with the cerebral spinal fluid to decrease the risk of shear injuries.
This lab in particular is invaluable because all of the technology and all of the equipment that we have here, apart from the fact that it's all in one location, most other labs don't even have access to one of the pieces of equipment that we have.
We can hook up the head form to it and launch it down and impact it into a surface, typically cement. It's more for falling off your handlebars on a motorbike mostly, or a road bike or a mountain bike depending on how fast you're going. So it's really nice because it simulates a much more severe and much more common way of getting hurt. So you can do something much more accurate to what you'd see in real life. So here what we do is we follow for a European standard method, which would be to tether the head form and have a basket, raise it up, drop it down to hit the anvil, and then it's free to move afterwards, so it's not attached to the monorail at all, so it allows it to rotate. So this way you can actually measure rotational acceleration upon an impact.
One of the differences in our technology is not only the type of material, but the placement of the material.
Where you get hit on the head creates a different environment for linear and rotational acceleration. So what we come back and do is we design pods specific to that location, as well as specific helmets. The other elements is the characteristics of how we manage force in different directions can be modified to meet the needs of a specific helmet or a specific sport.
So we can do anything from gathering the events themselves, reconstructing the events, analyzing the events, building the technology that we need, and then testing the technology. So we can really go from front end to back end and vice versa, all in one place and all for one sport, multiple sports, you name it.